Page 308. Study Session 8. Explanation in the Social Sciences. Introduction. Over the years, the breakthrough in science has been so fascinating that many other disciplines have started aligning themselves with the method of science. The prevailing assumption today is that the scientific method is the most effective method of explanation and that every problem is amenable to solution only by the application of the method of science. As Frederick Copleston aptly puts it, the scientific method is being progressively substituted for other means of attaining positive knowledge, and if there are areas in which the scientific method is inapplicable, they transcend the scope of human knowledge. Copleston, 1980, page 12. This assumption underlines the application of the scientific method in the investigation of human social phenomena and institutions by the social sciences. In this lecture, we shall examine the extent to which it is appropriate to employ the method which is peculiar to natural sciences in the investigation of human social phenomena and institutions. Learning outcomes. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand the role which the universal principle of causation plays in the formulation of scientific method, and distinguish between a causal explanation and a reasoned explanation, and lastly, justify the inappropriateness of employing the scientific method in the investigation of human social phenomena and institutions. The social sciences and the scientific method. The social sciences, like most other areas of knowledge, employ the method of science in their investigations so as to achieve the following objectives. 1. To understand and make it more intelligible the behavior, particularly the social behavior of human beings. 2. To establish the governing laws behind most of human behavior. 3. To understand the history of human development in order to predict in the face of given laws the future behavior of man. And lastly, to guide the behavior of human beings in a socially desirable way. The principle of cause and effect. However, an essential feature of scientific explanation is that it seeks to provide a causal or correlational connection between an event and its cause. But first, what do we mean by the principle of cause and effect? The principle of cause and effect states that for every event in the universe, there is a set of conditions such that if the conditions are all fulfilled, then the event invariably occurs. Put differently, the principle states that for every event B in the universe, there is always a cause A, such that B can always be explained by reference to the activities of event A. This is the principle that underlies the method of explanation in science. By employing the scientific method in social investigation, the social sciences seek to explain the course of action involving human agents. A major question that arises here, however, is whether or not the universal principle of cause and effect, which is very central to the method of explanation in the natural sciences, is also applicable to the social sciences. When, for instance, a scientist is asked to explain what produced a particular effect, he will state the cause. But what happens when a man is asked what led to his actions? Reasons versus causes. Ordinarily, we use the word cause in the explanation of actions involving human beings. When, for instance, a man says, "I went home because I was hungry," what he's saying is that the reason he went home was because he was hungry. This to many people means that it was hunger that caused the man's going home. Such an explanation pretends to exchange the words reason and cause for one another without any loss of meaning. To what extent, however, can we treat reasons as causes? In responding to these questions, let us first ask what is meant by a reasoned explanation. We know certainly that when a man makes his choice from possible alternatives, he does so on the basis of certain reasons of intentions and motives. It follows that a reasoned explanation is one in which reference is made to some kind of motives or intentions, which is purported to give rise to an action. What then should be the status of such an explanation? Some philosophers have provided arguments contesting the claim that reasons can be treated as causes and therefore that reasoned explanations are causal explanations. According to this group of scholars, explaining any action simply by pointing out the agent's reason for acting does not entail a full explanatory force and should not be accepted as a full explanation. Carlos specifically argues that the generalization connecting reasons and actions may not be sharpenable into the kind of law on the basis on which accurate prediction can be made. For him, rationalizations are not causal explanation because there exists a conceptual or logical relation between the reason and the explained action involving human beings, so that the action is at best explained as a reasonable consequence of that reason. For 2006, page 112. Some others argue that reasons cannot be treated as causes, and therefore that reasons' explanations are causal explanations because it is possible for somebody to act, to have reasons for acting, and yet not have acted because of those reasons. Just as it is also possible that the manifest reasons given by an actor for his action may turn out to be different from the latent reasons behind his actions. Again, when we ascribe some reasons to an action, we are referring to the intention behind the acts, and intentions are of a status that possess difficulties for our understanding of the notion of cause and effect. Consider the following explanations, for instance. Smith went to the store to buy bread. Further explained as, Smith's reason for going to the store was to buy bread, and finally, buying bread caused me to go to the store. In the above explanation, buying bread is said to be the cause of Smith going to the store. What then happens if Smith gets to the store and did not find bread to buy? Could we then say that the cause of his going to the store was non-existent? Also, if the above explanation is correct, that getting bread is the cause of Smith going to the store, then something is fundamentally wrong with the explanation, since Smith has to get to the store first before buying bread, thereby putting the effect before the cause. Contrary to understanding of cause-effect relationship, if reasons are causes, then getting bread most of necessity come before going to the store and not vice versa. Another general argument as to why the scientific model of explanation is inapplicable in the social sciences centers on the appreciable difference between the objects of study in science and the social sciences. Max Weber is a leading advocate of this argument. According to Weber, the object of study in the social sciences is man and the other social and human institutions created by man. These, according to him, cannot be subjected to the same kind of explanatory method used for inanimate objects in the natural science. Most judgments in the social sciences, he argues, neglect free will, rationality, desires, emotions, and other sentient features that come into play in the assessment of man and social phenomena. Human beings, which are the main object of the study in the social sciences, are free moral agents who not only create their social world, but can alter their actions at will, since there is always room for choice. To Weber, the social sciences should not pretend to apply the method of the natural sciences, but to turn instead to those features that make their objects of study unique, like emotions, biases, sentiments, etc. Instead of seeking value neutrality, the social sciences should recognize values, study values, and make them constitute part of their own procedure. The social sciences, Weber concludes, should empathize with the people's values, biases, and emotions. However, a few other scholars insist that reasons can be treated as causes, and that the claim by some that reasons are not causes may have resulted from a confliction between merely inventing or having a reason and acting for that reason. Collingwood, for instance, argues that reasons are causes and even takes it to the extreme by affirming that the ultimate causal power lies in human reason and that we should not be apt in ascribing causal power to inanimate things and objects in the physical world. Collingwood, 1961, page 307. Study session summary. So far in this lecture, we have examined the extent to which it is appropriate to employ the method which is peculiar to the natural sciences in the investigation of human social phenomena and institutions. We looked at the universal principle of causation, which is at the base of explanation in the natural science. We then looked at the difference between a reasoned explanation and a causal explanation and concluded that the unique nature of human being and other objects of social knowledge make them inaccessible to the kind of cause-effect explanatory model used in the natural sciences. End of study session 8. Thank you for listening.